So today I want to talk about sort of 5 areas of my lifestyle that I now consider non-negotiable in my 50s, as I want to try and optimize my health and really stay in the best shape I can for as long as I can, because that's my ultimate goal, is just to get in really good shape over the next 2 years and just hold on to that as much as possible for as long as possible. And to do that, there's 5 areas what I call now my non-negotiables now. These are just like, this is for me locked in now for however many years I'm left on this planet. And so let's just jump into it. So number 1 is building muscle. I'll talk about on this channel. There'll be loads of other videos depending on when you watch this, but I believe truly that every man in the 50s and obviously older should be focused on building as much muscle as possible. Now, I'm not talking about bodybuilding. You don't have to look like a bodybuilder, but I do think you need a decent level of muscle mass on your body if you want to retain the quality of your life and health as you get older. Now, there's lots of science behind this. I haven't got time to really go into it on this video, but I just think it's a massive marker for longevity, and I say just for the quality of life. If you want to wake up now in 20-25 years and still do the things you're doing today, then you need to have maintained your physique. You need to have a certain level of muscle mass. If you don't want to be slowing down anytime soon, then having enough muscle on your body to retain your strength, and all the other benefits that come with having a decent level of muscle on there are absolutely critical, I think. So for me, absolute priority number 1, and I don't say it's priority number 1 in this list, but priority number 1 now is building muscle. And for me at the moment, that's 3 times a week in the gym. That's all it is, 3 hours a week. I'm not talking about going doing it every single day, but that's for me is the bare minimum. Okay, so sort of foundational habit or lifestyle, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, forget that. Number 2 is, and this ties into muscle mass actually, is protein. Now, there's a lot of debate online whether how much protein you actually need, on a day-to-day basis. And again, it'll depend on your goals. But there's, obviously, if someone isn't an athlete and really training hard, they're probably going to need a lot more muscle, a lot more protein than someone who's got quite a sedentary lifestyle. But what I do believe is, as we get older and obviously our muscle mass does decline naturally, I do think we need to increase our protein levels. What that looks like, I think that's going to differ for all of us, as I've said, depending on your own genetics and your own activity levels and all those other things that you need to think about. But for me personally at the moment, I'd sort of go with 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight. So I'm around about 180 pounds at the moment. So that's roughly about, for me, it's about 140, 150 grams. And that's okay for me at the moment. I'm actually probably going to try testing just going up to maybe 1 gram per pound of body weight, because I'm just not quite sure whether I'm getting the optimal results from my training at the moment. And I want to see if upping the protein levels will actually make a little bit difference. So I probably will be trialing that probably another week or 2, just maybe up my levels to 180 grams of protein per day. But the takeaway from this is, I think, look at your protein levels, what you have now, and just consider maybe trialing it out, maybe to just increasing it by 10, 20, 30%, and just seeing what that looks like for you in terms of your physique, especially if you are getting back into the gym or doing some sort of level of exercise and you're not quite happy with the results that you're seeing at the moment. Okay, so number 3 is walking. Obviously I'm doing that now. I do believe this is probably the optimal exercise for everyone as they're getting older. There's so many different benefits for walking. aside from obviously burning fat and just maintaining a certain level of, you know, wellness and fitness. But obviously there's lots of mental benefit, just getting out in nature and just being outside. I think it's just so good for us. It's just a shame here in the UK we don't get the weather to do more of it, but I think as a habit, I think this is a really, really important one, and I would certainly highly recommend that you try and get out whenever possible, and just, you know, at least half an hour a day. That probably won't get you to the 10,000 steps, but it's better than nothing. And I say, for me, especially if you want to stay lean as you're getting older, then walking is a key part of that, definitely. Obviously diet's, you know, the main probably component of that as well, but walking is definitely a really, really good habit to start and maintain, and just for a whole host of reasons. If you can get your 10,000 steps a day, brilliant. If not, just, you know, do as much as you can. Obviously if you're working, it is difficult. I try, you know, I don't do it every day. I don't get my 10,000 every day, so I have to sort of try and make that up at the weekend. But I love it, you know. I love being outside and just seeing different places. It's just a great habit to do, to have in your life. So that's number 3. Number 4 probably is, you know, actually it should be the priority of all this, but it's sleep. If you're getting older, like you know, in your 50s like me, maybe you are struggling with your sleep at the moment. I mean, my sleep's shocking. I'm not terrible. I'm not an insomniac or anything, but, you know, I don't very rarely have a really good night's sound sleep, and probably there's a few reasons for that I need to sort of work on. But ultimately, I think it just, you know, being refreshed, feeling your best when you have a really good night's sleep, you really notice it. You think, oh my god, if I could wake up on this day, like every day like this, life would just be amazing. But unfortunately, it just always doesn't happen like that. But I am now prioritizing it as much as possible, and one of the big strategies or tips that's worked for me is just really going to bed at the same time pretty much every night. Now I know that sounds a bit boring, especially at the weekend, but if you can get that, you know, as much as close as possible, especially in the week, I've just found that it really just sort of levels your energy levels out. You know, we have really late nights, and then you're having to get up in the morning. It really creates that sleep debt that it's really hard to catch up, especially as you're getting older. And you know, it just drags you back, it drags you down, it drags your productivity down, your mental focus, everything just gets dragged down, your energy levels and just your sort of general enthusiasm. So for me, this is a big one, because I really need to work on this as much as I can. And I do know the ripple effect, if I get this sorted out, it's going to ripple out into everything else that I do and just make everything else better. So definitely sleep is, you know, I'm really prioritizing it, and you know, just giving it the sort of consideration it needs. You know, this is an essential part of who we are, going to, you know, sleep. There's a reason that we sleep for 8 hours a day. A third of our life is spent asleep. It's, you know, it's so important to the human nature. So definitely, you know, if you are struggling with your sleep, I would certainly look into why that's happening and do your best to sort of improve it. And the final one that I'm working on is mobility. I've had a lot of issues over these few years with my back and other parts of my body, and that's led me to a journey where I've started yoga and done all these different forms of exercise focused on mobility, and that's now become like a cornerstone habit for me. So every morning I'm up, I'll do at least 10-15 minutes of stretching. And to be honest, I can't live without it now. I don't know how people in the 50s are just getting up and just not in pain and just struggle. You know, it's just unbelievable. The way I feel some days in the morning, you think, oh my god. And I try and really work on this, and then you think, what were other people feeling? When I was personal training, I used to stretch people out part of the session at the end, and like, I just couldn't believe how stiff some people were. You think, how are you getting up in the morning? How are you getting up? You know, it's and I think just people ignore it. They just think it's a part of growing older. And obviously, don't get me wrong, you know, you are going to stiffen up naturally and slow down naturally, but I do think you can really work on that. And I've met people, you know, in the 70s and 80s who were doing yoga, and they're like, their bodies will move around like they're like in the 20s and 30s. So it is possible, but it's a real commitment, because it's one of them things that just doesn't give you that immediate impact. I mean, the gym's not a bit like that, but you do start to see, you know, within weeks. But with the stretching and the yoga and any other mobility, it does take a lot longer. But I think the flexibility I've got now compared to what I would say 3 or 4 years ago, it's night and day difference. And I just think, my God, what if I was still like that? You know, what would I feel like? Where would I be? So this freedom of movement and just being able to sort of, you know, get up and just move around without having to think about it, you know, I think that's so important. And I think as you're getting older, mobility is just a massive issue that if you don't deal with it, can age you quite quickly. So I would certainly recommend trying to fit in at least 10 to 15 minutes a day of just stretching all the major areas of your body, and just you know, working on that, and just feeling where your body's tightening up. Because let's be honest, you know, most of us are sat down all day, which is just not good for our body. We weren't designed to do that. And I think, you know, even stretching all day, you're probably not going to counteract, but it's better than nothing. So definitely look at that. Look at where you're at with your mobility, and if you feel like, you know, like you're just like you're aging, and in your 50s you're aging, part of that will be because your mobility is, you know, you're tightening up. Anyway, I think I've rambled on long enough, and I hope that helped, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Thank you.